Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Grossman Files. Hey. We may not have a great one for you today. I really have no idea. But just for tradition's sakes, we got a greater one for you today. Yes, we are living in Druidica. Unto my park. Oh, killing the children, living in Druidica. Oh, Ken and Moloch, mean to Maria. Oh, living in Druidica. Dun, 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 dun. I don't feel good. Yes. How the hell can you feel good living in Druidica? But, that's what the Maury people are still doing. They're living in Druidica. I mean, they would they would rather believe these crazy fairy tales about Ken, about Moloch, about Maria, who was crying. Maria was crying because Moloch was mean to her and Ken didn't step in. In fact, Ken was mean to her too. Moloch was mean and Ken was mean, and the end result was a tear from Maria's eye. And Jonathan Mithsell loves it because he can write all about it, acting as if these comic book characters are real. They're living in Druidica. Oh, and they don't feel good. How could you feel good living in Druidica? So actually, we're not talking about Druidica per se today, but I was taking my walk and I came up with that little ditty, so I figured, all right, let me hit you with this show that I've been kind of thinking about doing for the past week or so. Ever since I've been seeing word going around that, well, people are taking up my challenge, about Bronx Sniper. Yeah, I'm talking about Bronx Sniper again. Could always not watch if you're bored with this topic, I know. But people are talking about this topic is getting all the GDS sufferers. They're tying themselves in knots, defending a serial killer from the notion that he may have other victims. That's all we're saying. We never said Burkowitz was the Bronx Sniper. When do we have to get that into your head? All we're doing is making the argument that he could be. All we're doing is saying he can't be ruled out. So as I have been putting out to the wider SOS community, tell me why it's not possible that Berkey wasn't the Bronx Sniper. Just give me a reason why. Just give me one good reason why we have to rule him out, and I'm a reasonable guy. I'll rule him out, and I'll move on in life. It's not like the NYPD is knocking down our doors to solve this case. There's nothing going on behind the scenes. I mean, how many times I have to tell you I have no juice? It's not like the old days. But so Paul Berger Hart. Now, I don't know what's up with this guy because he used to be a friend of mine, friend of the channel, early supporter, one of these people that was a Maury Terry head. And then as time went on and the evidence came out, he was smart enough to realize that it was all a hoax, and he came along with it. And he was a source of good material over the years. He gave me some good insight into how to approach material. Got me some good articles about Arliss Perry, helping me to work on my first Arliss Perry show, the Arliss Perry hoax. And I never thought I'd see the day where he'd be going to the ends of the earth to prove Manny wrong. He went on this whole tear during Wendy Savino, hanging out with the most lowliest of characters, thereby sullying his reputation. And the only thing that filthy, vile pig Dana Rotting Jules ever did was actually expose that this guy's been using a fake name the whole time. His real name is Paul Berger. He's actually like hooked up with some occultic stuff that I have no idea about. That's not my thing. I don't really care about. But the using of the fake names always makes me suspicious. Like, I don't use my fake name. In fact, people use my real name as a weapon. They're always saying Luis Grossman, his real name is Luis. Okay, yeah, well, great. So you put my name into Google and you got you got that. It came up. I mean, big deal. Manny's, of course, my middle name. That's what I've been going by since I'm a week old. Very boring and old story. But my point is, like, I don't use a fake name. I don't. That's one of the things I learned from Jason Goodman. As weird a dude as I think that guy is, with his outlandish accusations that everybody's a social engineer. He told me, Manny, use your real name when doing all this stuff. You should never be afraid. So right there, it's a weird thing. So Paul Hart Berger, like, I don't understand why he uses a fake name. But anyway, he went against Wendy, the Wendy story, and that's fine. Like I've always said, this isn't a cult. This isn't like something where you have to agree with me. I'm just doing my thing here. Hopefully you're enjoying it. We're all having a good time. We enjoy spending some time together every now and then. But I forget exactly where I was where I was going with that. But yeah, but use legitimate stuff. Like Hart was using stuff like these crazy arguments that Burkowitz could never get a gun in New York City, and that 2 men drove away, which was, of course, a fake story written by the sensationalist Daily News author Paul Mescal. And you can watch a show I did about how Maury Terry lied about the Placido shootings and read all about how Paul Mescal was the source of all those lies, in fact. It was kind of a crazy story. You should go watch that show. It's quite interesting. Maury Terry lies about Placido. But yeah, so Paul has been on this tear, hanging out with the crazy Chris Claw. And the crazy phenotypical pedophilic looking off his rocker mic. And talking about how Bronx Sniper was malicious drug gangs. So now they're malicious drug gangs. And so let's just get right into it. I mean, we're not going to analyze this to death. We have a bunch of articles that we're going to look at, but I'm kind of just going to cliff notes this because I have a main thesis point that I'm going to try to make in this, and the argument that I'm going to make, just so we can get it all up front, so people can get all pissed off at me now. This is the argument and the slant that I'm going to take, but I'm going to make the argument that yeah, other crimes existed, of course, but what's that got to do with Bronx Sniper? In other words, people are like Maury Terry did. They're bringing in all these other crimes into this singular story of Bronx Sniper, and they're conflating the two. And I'm saying, no, Sniper is a separate event. I can prove it was a separate event. So therefore, I am going to make the argument that Paul Hart's argument holds no weight. I'm not going to criticize him personally, other than like, use your real name, bro. Like, I don't understand what the fake names and all that cloak and dagger stuff. Nobody cares. This is like, nobody's that important. But this is also a wider issue of like, I'm trying to deal with people's arguments on their merits, and trying to, if people are going to, take the time to try to counter what we're saying over here at the Grossman Files, well, whether I like these people or not, or whether I think they're working in good faith or any of this other stuff or not, is irrelevant. I'm going to try to meet them where they're at. I'm going to, since none of them are willing to come on to my shows, I invite them. They all have open invites. I can get a hold of me anytime to debate these things live. In fact, I will put the link now because I want open dialogue. At least I'm dealing with people's issues and that they have with my work on the merits of their work. We're not going to get into personal beefs because actually I have no beef with Paul Hart. I don't even know the guy. I have no idea who he is. I never met him or spoke to him. A couple of emails here and there. It was always this cloak and dagger stuff. I mean, people are so weird on online. Like, I never worked under a fake name. People think I have fake accounts on YouTube that I speak under. I don't. So we're going to deal with the issues as they arise one by one. So I put together a nice little neat little show for you today that I hope you enjoy. All right, well, first things first is that we already know that Berkowitz lied about his upbringing and his childhood in this recent article. He terrorized millions. I did a show about it. This is a known lie. Not this headline, right? That's not a known lie. He terrorized millions. That the son of Sam has confided in me and has finally broken his silence. So in this article, Berkowitz goes on to he goes on to bitch. In case you haven't seen the show or heard about this, he goes on to bitch about being accused of other crimes as if he is the singularist serial killer on the planet that you could never speculate had other crimes. What makes Berkowitz so special in the canon and the annals of serial killers that you can't wonder if he had other crimes? It's like crazy. With the modern day Chris Claus of the world, frothing at the mouth, literally gobs of spittle flying this way and that way in defense of this guy, contorting themselves and with all sorts of leaps and logics. And when their boy is lying to them, he talks in this article, the idea I was roaming around in a fairly dangerous neighborhood was illogical. To get home, I would have had to take the subway line into Manhattan. I wouldn't get home until 3:30. And get to school the next day. And wouldn't my dad be concerned and out and about at such an hour? And meanwhile, we have him on record in a million letters to Abrahamson, a gazillion places on video, talking all about how he used to escape his house in the middle of the night. He would roam the streets. Voices would tell him to do bad things. His parents knew he was out, but they couldn't do anything about it. And one thing I forgot to tell you is that there's a document that only the G-Man has. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you because it's still under legal seal. And if I show it to you, it's actually a federal crime. But I can tell you one little piece out of this. It's Berkowitz's psychiatric exam when he was first arrested. Like 10 pages long. It's amazing. It has quite a bit of stuff that y'all didn't know. But one of the things that it talks about is truanting, is that Berkowitz was a truanter at Christopher Columbus High School. We didn't know that about him, but he would cut school often, just never go and just walk around. So this whole notion of like, here he's playing the innocent little boy, like yo Claw, yo Myth Cell, this is a lie. This is right here. Yo Hart, this is a lie. So again, take the personalities out of it. Forget that this is me telling this to you, because I know that the GDS is too much to get over for some people for some strange reason. I don't understand why, but this is an objective untruth. This is a lie. You're living in Druidica if you think that Berkowitz is telling the truth here. Okay. And so my question, of course, then to Hart is that if he's lying in an article now about his je ne sais quoi, about the way he was as a teenager during these years, well, why is he doing that? Doesn't that make you a little bit suspicious? In my mind, this makes him even more suspicious as possibly being the Bronx Sniper. Notice that I've never said that he is the Bronx Sniper. Where's this notion coming from? That why is Burkowitz solely exempt from the annals of criminology, that only he can be put on a pedestal, that you can't speculate that he had other crimes? All y'all MFers do that with Zodiac, constantly talking about Zodiac had another one on this lake, this drive somewhere. I don't even know. To me, Zodiac's the most boring shit on planet Earth. Yeah, them MFers are constantly bleeding on about Ted Bundy. Were there others? And then even in this show that I saw recently, which was actually great, about an unknown serial killer called Richard Naso, Naso. I believe he originally started in the New England area and ended up in California, and he's in jail now. And there's this whole thing about how many other victims Naso had. It might be Jaso or Naso. I'm not quite sure, but it's kind of a crazy story. So all of a sudden, I don't understand. Just because you have GDS, you're frothing at the mouth to make Berkowitz innocent of this crime. We should all be saying, "Whoa, this is cool that you're actually talking about this as possible." First of all, you're bringing life to an old crime that's been forgotten in the annals of history. I can tell you right off the bat that the family of Margaret Iglesias is very happy that this attention was put on the case. They cooperated fully with a follow-up article. I don't understand why that article never came out, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But there were things going on behind the scenes with this, and people were very intrigued by this story for a minute behind the scenes. Ex-cops, ex-detectives. It got kind of cool for a little while. I didn't, of course, bring anything public. But the point is that at the very least, we're shining light on this crime. And so I'm an asshole for that. Like, I'm to be condemned for this. Give me a reason why Berkowitz should be exonerated, because so far I have him caught in a lie, an objective lie about his childhood, where he was in a story that he was then going on to deny shooting Wendy and deny shooting Margaret Iglesias. And he started that out with a lie. So then I'm to believe the next sentence that he didn't shoot those people. It deserves analysis, and that's what we're doing here. I'm respecting the memory of this person. And we're trying to understand Berkowitz more, if he indeed was the Bronx Sniper, because that of course would change everything about Son of Sam and this entire case, way more than Wendy ever did. Actually, there's a lot more power in the Bronx Sniper story if he's the Bronx Sniper than there was in Wendy. I don't know why. I think they're both equal, but either case. So let's analyze this malicious drug gangs. Let's see what people are saying here. You don't like Dana, but she's forgotten more than you'll ever know. Your speaking format is all over the map. Are you talking about oranges or apples? Is cool, just guess or not. Yo, Michael, if you're not advanced listener enough to understand, then I can't help you. If Dana's your speed, listening to bad genealogy, erroneous reports, and linking together things that don't need to be linked in the real world, then that's your thing, man. Cool. I'm happy for you, Levine. That's cool. I'm happy. All right, so let's carry on. So we have him caught in a lie here. And again, I'm not the one lying. This Berkowitz is lying. He's the one in this article. They're not interviewing me. If they did, and I would say in this article that this is a lie. So Paul Hart, this is his argument in a nutshell. And this is a comment that he wrote on the Facebook post. And we're going to read this whole thing because I want to give this is his argument, and I want to give him the respect of putting his argument out there and then addressing his argument. Paul Hart, I understand your position, Rosie, but for myself, I can't remain silent when I know who was doing the sniping in the South Bronx. And it was done by more than one person through the years of the late 60s to early 70s. All right, so I'm going to comment as I go with this. So here he's saying, okay, because I'm making arguments here, right? So he is saying right off the bat, he knows. He's not saying he surmises like I'm saying that I surmise that Burkowitz may have been the sniper. Paul Hart knows who it was. Okay. Again, it's not Manny Grossman that wrote this and used the word no. I didn't use that word. I'm just reading the word that someone else used. How am I to believe anything different about Paul Hart's stance when he uses the saying, I know who was doing the sniping in the South Bronx? All right, so we're clear on that. So to him, it was done by more than one person. So these were malicious drug gangs who set up a shop on rooftops all throughout that area. They were armed and jealously guarded their territory. I personally heard the stories from frightened residents, including my father's tenants. So I guess he's basically saying his father was a slumlord. I don't know anything about this dude's history here. So I'm just going to assume, because I know that Paul Hart did not grow up in Morrisania, his father's tenants. So his father had tenants in the South Bronx. Okay, so if you remember, one of the reasons Nat Berkowitz wanted to move away from their Soundview areas was because drug dealers and addicts took over the roof of their building. That's true. Do you realize just a few days before Margaret Iglesias was shot on East 169th, an NYPD officer was shot while trying to break up one of these drug gang gatherings on the roof of a building on nearby East 166th Street? Most of the gang scattered and fled down fire escapes. The police did catch the scumbag who took the shot, but others got away. Who knows what rooftop these animals utilized later? This article is below. Me and my dad often heard stories of young men using fire escapes to get on roofs at night because the buildings were locked up. I'll attach another story concerning the South Bronx and drug gangs using sniper perches on roof to guard their turf. These savages ruined the South Bronx. They'd get stoned and out of control and terrorize the neighborhoods. My father's supers were even afraid to go on the roofs at night. If these guys could shoot a cop, they could shoot anyone. And I'm not going to give these animals even a pass if others with fantastical stories don't take into account what was actually going on in the Bronx at that time. All right, so he's saying here that I'm denying what actually goes on. That's actually not true, and we're going to prove that as we go along. All right, so essentially what I'm saying that Hart did here was that he is doing the conflation. He's using something that's obviously true. The neighborhood was a bad neighborhood. The South Bronx was bad. There were definitely shootings taking place. There were definitely people on top of rooftops with guns. He kind of is a little disingenuous in how he couches this story in particular here, because the cop was shot not on the street from the roof, but he was shot on the roof when he got on top of the roof. So there's different things criminologically here that are different to Bronx Sniper, the Bronx Sniper attacks. And also, as we're going to see, with only one exception, everybody was caught for these attacks. They were all caught. They were either dimed out by people who knew them or they were caught at the scene. It's different from Sniper. So, again, I'm giving Berger Hart, I don't know why, like, dude, what's the fake name? I don't understand. I'm giving your arguments the respect of a response. Okay, and I feel, and I'm only doing this not because I'm trying to defend my position. I'm not. I'm trying to This case is important to me. I do in my heart have very deep suspicions that it's our man Disco Dave Sam Solo. And what I'm trying to do is use the forum that I have to educate my audience into why I think that might be. I'm not saying that you have to believe me, but I have this platform to do this, and this is something that I'm interested in. And so therefore, I want to do shows like this because it gives me another avenue to make my arguments. You see what I'm saying? As to why I think that not only he was our boy, but also to show why I think other people's arguments as to why he don't hold water. And I'm trying to do it in a respectful way that doesn't get into name calling. I'm trying to take it on the merit of the arguments. So let's see what people are saying here. It seems that Manny is putting forth factual instead of bizarre conspiracy theories. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Dana did a whole show about my father being involved with Jeffrey Epstein, and her point of connection was the Harvard Club that my dad did PR for, and that Jeffrey Epstein that gave money to Harvard University. And she didn't even Google that the Harvard Club isn't affiliated with the Harvard University officially. Like, there's no corporate structure connecting them at all. And even if there was, how then is he affiliated with then all these alleged crimes that Epstein, like, the conspiracy world is so freaking lazy. It's so easy to say that because someone's father, like, this is Dana's latest ridiculous thing, is that Candace Owens' father handled the contracts for security at the Sandy Hook school. And so therefore he's guilty of being involved in Sandy Hook. Well, first of all, wouldn't you first have to prove there was a conspiracy at Sandy Hook? That would be the first thing that you would need to do. Then you would need to forensically prove that being in charge of a contract means you're involved in the conspiracy that you haven't even proved exists. That's just like a fantasy, like Little Red Robin Hood. So yeah, like, we're dealing with actual crimes here, real crimes committed by real people with real weapons, investigated by real cops. And of course, quite frankly, Son of Sam is kicked. I mean, it's dead. I mean, at this point, I'm sort of relegated to doing shows about these periphery subjects, and other people who are talking about Son of Sam are doing shows on D. And there's some interesting insights still to be gleaned and gained there. I'm not going to take that away from anyone. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. So let's see. I'm going to get to some comments before I carry on. Man, he's being rational. Right. Thank you very much. I try. There are so many holes in the ultimate evil. Yeah, exactly. Especially reading it now with our new knowledge. All right. So let's carry on. All right. So we basically have his argument. His argument is that he knows who was doing the sniping. So he knows who shot Margaret Iglesias, Deborah File, George, whatever the other dude's name. And then, of course, 3 other victims that we don't even know the names of. So the articles that he uses, this is all Paul Hart stuff. This is what he uses to prove his point that the teenage drug gangs did the Bronx Sniper shootings, because that's what he's saying. I mean, I don't know. I can't glean anything else to what he's saying. To me, he's saying that this is who responsible for shooting Margaret Iglesias. So first of all, no date, no anything identifying where this article's from. But here is a guy who is being a Bronx teenager charged with shooting a uniformed police officer, and he was shot on the rooftop of 166th Street. Now, first of all, in that area, the streets don't go. That's the one thing you got to understand about this area. The streets don't necessarily go in chronological order. Like 166th and then 169th isn't necessarily just 3 blocks away from each other. There could be like differently named little roads in between. I don't know that to be the case, but I know from having worked many jobs in that area over the years that like it takes a while to go from even like 158th to 170th Street. It's not just 12 blocks. It's like actually 40 blocks. It's kind of crazy. So we don't even know how close this was to the area of Grant and whatever Morris Avenues on one little block that the Bronx Sniper shootings took place on. So I reject this as an argument. Sorry, Paul, this isn't convincing me. And they caught the guy. They didn't catch the Bronx Sniper. So this is basically the same thing. And this is like more stuff done by talking about attacks on police officers that were taking place in that time. And some of these things that Paul Hart is showing are Brooklyn crimes. Like, what's this got to do with Bronx Sniper? This is talking about Stillwell Avenue, transit cop. Now, if you want to tell me that there was a rash and spate of attacks on police officers in 1970, get in line, dude. You're talking to the person that did 3 shows with Randy Jurgensen about that very thing. He's the king of that topic. You can't get any deeper than Randy Jurgensen on the topic of attacks on police officers in 1970. So check my archives. You can look at those 3 shows. I even went further. I did a show on Mayor Lindsay and all his connections to the foundations at the time and how all of his Harlem Mosque incidents and stuff like that could have been early examples of what we later experienced with Black Lives Matter and the Soros riots of 2020 as they continue on, of course, during the 2020s to this very day. The same elitists and the same foundations behind the same poverty pimps like Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan at the time, and your Al Sharptons. And if I had any white guys in the top of my head, I would do that, but I would name them. But you get my point. There was a lot of political intrigue going on in those areas at the time. So if you want to get into talks about that, Hart, about police attacks, that's cool with me, bro. I'm down with that. But what's this got to do with Bronx Sniper that I'm reading here? Because Brooklyn attacks on cops, as far as I can tell, don't have anything to do with anything that I'm talking about. So here is another article. 2-shot man seized on roof. 2 persons were shot in a Bronx street by a rooftop sniper who wanted to shoot people. Now, first of all, this took place on 176th. So, like I said, our shootings took place on 159th. And this guy was caught, and he wasn't connected to the Bronx Sniper attacks on 159th. If it had, it would have made the news. And besides, what date is this from? I don't even know what date this is from. So how are you going to tell me, Paul, that the malicious drug gangs did the Bronx Sniper shootings? So far in this article, Ralph, dude, I see your comment. Give me a second here. I'm on a roll. So you're telling me here, so all I'm seeing in this article is that some weirdo was on a roof. He took a pot shot at some people, probably drugged out of his mind, and the cops caught the guy at the same time. A youth was hit in the chest by the same sniper. Rivera was holding a 30-06 and threatening them. They rushed and they managed to disarm him. I just wanted to shoot someone. So they caught this. This is very different from the Bronx Sniper attacks. So far, these arguments don't hold weight to me. Do you want me to say that I don't understand. Like, there were other crimes going on besides Bronx Sniper. There were other snipings and rooftop shootings. I get that, Paul. I understand that. Even during Son of Sam, that wasn't, as we know, you're a smart guy, that wasn't happening in a vacuum either. There were thousands of other homicides taking place at the same time. So congratulations, you found some articles about snipers and people shooting off rooftops in the general, and I say that with being very generous, in the general area of Morrisania. 176th Street is nowhere near 159th Street if you actually know the Bronx. And you say you did because your father was a landlord. So I don't understand how you think that would get by me showing 176th Street here. Like, what's this got to do with 159th between Grant and Morris Avenue? Or 169th, sorry. Even that, 6 blocks away. Again, it could be as many as actually 12 blocks away. I don't know that to be the case, but in this area around here is where the George Washington Bridge is, around that area. The streets don't go chronologically. So I fail to see how this isn't passing my smell. Like, all right, so you showed me that there was other crimes going on. It hasn't taken Berkowitz out of contention. How is that taking him out of contention? Burkowitz was a sniper. He was a shooter. He shot people from not right up. Well, Son of Sam was right up close. But he did other sniping shootings during Son of Sam of animals that were not right up close. And how do we know that he only did things right up close? And why can't we say that he started doing things from afar and he only got up right up close as he got more and more confident in his abilities and as he got more reckless as he got older and, more down into the mental illness? Like, the GDS suffers, to them, Berkowitz can only work one way, and that's it. In every crime, he had to do exactly the same thing. It doesn't make sense. So, Ralph, dude. Manny, do you know about the Black Liberation Black Guerrilla Army? That's some lost New York City crime history. Yeah, of course. And I believe they did snipe. In fact, Ralph, dude, that's what I was just talking about. I go check out my shows with Randy Jurgensen because that's all about the Black Liberation Army and the Harlem Mosque incident. I did 3 shows with Randy. No, I did 2 shows with Randy and 1 commentary show of my own. Yes, and I agree with this completely here. So far, Paul, like, again, I'm trying to be respectful, trying to do this without getting into personal attacks. And I think so far I'm doing a decent job of that. But you haven't convinced me. You've shown me other crimes taking place. Whoop-de-doo. The Bronx was a violent area. How does this compare sociologically and criminologically to the 6 shootings in Bronx Sniper that were connected by the police and the media at the time? So here's the only one that, and again, we don't have a date, and it takes place way far away from this is like as far down in the South Bronx as you can go. So even if assuming that everything was chronological in the streets, this would still be 33 blocks away from our location. Okay. So I don't understand, like, this is the person that shot Margaret Iglesias. Is that what because that's what you said. You said, you said who was doing the sniper shootings. That means that you know who was the Bronx Sniper. Well, go to the cops, bro, because this is a cold case. You solved it. It was the South Bronx Sniper wounds, 1 and escapes who did it. And on what date? Why aren't you giving me the date on this? And this took place on 136th Street. So again, it doesn't mean anything to me. And then this is a story, another one of, I'm starting to call this the Paul Hart special. No headlines given, no dates given, where's Abe Pivowitz writing these articles from? So here we go. The prisoners in their own home, human predators. So there's bad people hanging out on roofs in the Bronx, and they're saying we're perfect targets. There are snipers around. Okay. I'm sure that happened. But first of all, where's this taking place? Where's this? I don't see an address here. And second of all, these kids are on the roof and they're talking about being targets for snipers, I believe. They walk to the roof. Let's scatter, there's snipers around. So first of all, some teenagers saying there's snipers around doesn't necessarily mean there were actually snipers around. I mean, that's what teenagers were just saying that. I could say there's snipers around. There's not a sniper in sight, but I could say there's snipers around. So it's like, dude, your arguments are weak. First of all, what's the date? Where's this taking place? Where is this? Because Tremont and Davidson Avenue, I don't know whether that's this up here. And even if some kid is saying that there's a sniper around, what's that got to do with Bronx Sniper? And yes, the South Bronx was violent. There were other snipers than the Bronx Sniper. I mean, that's a revelation. I'm going to deny this. In fact, just to show you how I am an honest dealer in this, I did a show, my first show, about this whole deal. The Bronx Sniper, Son of Sam before Son of Sam. This was like almost a year ago now. I showed almost these very articles to prove my point that, yes, there were other crimes going on, Paul, in the neighborhood. But what's that got to do with Bronx Sniper? See, this is where you all fail when it comes to dealing with me. I actually watch your shit, okay? I watch all your podcasts. I listen. I read your dumb Substacks. I don't know why I do that. I mean, it's actually a reflection upon me, because actually, why am I doing that? But I do like to keep up with what people are saying about me and my work. And, you know, you got to take it where you can find it. The only people who are talking about me and my work are the lunatics, the Chris Claus, the Dana Dudas, the Jonathan Mythsells, the Paul Harts. I have to lump him in now, because if he thinks that this argument that he made about Bronx snipers and other snipers would like he said that those people were the ones that killed Margaret Iglesias. Right, exactly. Bakelite. Exactly. And I brought this up, homies. This is from a year ago. I watch your shit, Paul. Why don't you do the same for mine? If you did, you would understand that I already made these arguments for you, sucker. I was through with it before you even knew what to do with it. You're walking around here with your nose all snotty. If you don't know what the game's all about, you better ask somebody. I did all of these shows, all of these. Look, Bronx Sniper, Shirt Skull, and boy, look, there's me doing that a year ago in my old apartment. It's like not even a year ago. It's like a whole different life. It's crazy. Look, telescopic sleuthing leads to trail of Bronx Sniper. Whoa, Manny was talking about the very thing. Police drag out. Look, there's me a year ago with my kimchi thing, talking about and I was making the same argument that I'm making tonight, that yes, the Bronx was violent. Yes, there were other snipers going on, but no, they were not criminologically similar at all to the Bronx Sniper attacks, because in every case except for the one that we saw, they were found. And they were usually one-off events. It wasn't a string of attacks taking place over a 3-month period. It was a pot shot. And then some dude gets dimed out. It was people attacking cops like the Black Liberation Army and and the and the malicious drug gangs that were in fact down there. But you're going to tell me that that's who shot Margaret Iglesias for what? So let me see what people are saying, because I got to give Ralph Dude a voice here. This is more of a hypothesis or an assertion, not a case, let alone proof. It's not completely unreasonable, but he overstated his case. Right. Exactly. Yes, Ralph Dude, you're a very fair and erudite gentleman, and I appreciate that very much. This is the perfect way to put it. And I'm trying to treat it in a respectful manner. At least Paul Berger Hart made an argument, a counter argument. But where he comes off wrong is saying that I'm absolutely wrong. I can never be right on this. Manny is absolutely wrong. It was the malicious drug gangs that did it. Like, that's just as bad as me saying it was Burkowitz, which I've never said, by the way. Has anybody ever heard me say it was Burkowitz for sure, 100%? Has anybody heard those words come out of my mouth? Crime is down in New York City. I keep hearing it. That's a load of baloney. Of course, I'm not in New York City anymore, but my parents and my family still live there. I was just down in New York City today, in fact. It's an absolute dump. It turned into a mental asylum during the pandemic. People are in absolute denial. When are we ever going to get reconciliation for the lockdowns, guys? Like, when is that ever going to happen? Are we just going to continue going down in La La Land while all these criminals not only still walk free, but you fools are still electing them? Anyway, all right. So, I was talking about this last year. So to finish up, the takeaways is no one is denying violence in the Bronx was rampant back then. Nobody is denying this. Herger. No one is denying that the other shooting, sniping incidents took place. In fact, the G-Man is the one that brought up the whole notion in the first place, Herger. But my ultimate challenge is, can we rule Burkowitz out? That's all I'm saying, guys. Can we rule him out? Give me an argument that rules him out. Because if he can't be ruled out, that means he can be thought of as a suspect. And that's why it gets interesting as a subject. If you're truly interested in Son of Sam, if you're interested in cult of personality and thinking that people are stealing all your work and this and that and then blah, 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 and do, and whatever the hell else you want to throw in there. If you're interested in that, that ain't my thing. I'm interested in advancing this case. Whether you like it or not, we're the only Son of Sam research group to actually advance this case. So let's talk about it in a mature fashion. Like, tell me what rules him out. Please tell me what rules him out. And the difference in these shootings, the ones, right, and so what I mean by this in these shootings is the one that I showed you today, the Paul Hart Berger shootings, are enough for me to say that Berkowitz is still a suspect. These other shootings were one-offs. Most of the perps were caught, whereas the Bronx Sniper shootings were connected criminologically. So what do I mean by that? Well, there were articles written about the ongoing sniper attacks to the exclusion of every other sniper attack, Paul, that was taking place by the malicious drug gang shooting cops when they came to investigate the reports of malicious drug gangs on rooftops. And to the exclusion of all the other sniping cases, where they caught the perp, or it was some druggie on a rooftop getting dimed out because he was an idiot and he was just like, yeah, I just felt like shooting two people. You caught me. To the exclusion of all others, the New York Times, which Maury Terry himself said Not that this means anything, but Maury Terry himself said that they never dipped their toes into crime. They had 2 separate articles, one by Paul Montgomery and one by Grace Lichtenstein. This is one article, but there's another one as well. So now people are saying, like I heard Rena from the Gutter Talk people saying that there was no Bronx Sniper, that they were never connected. Oh, they weren't? What am I reading in these articles? It says here, in the last 8 weeks, 6 people, 5 of them women, have been shot by a nighttime sniper on 169th between Morris and Grant Avenues. The latest victim. So, Rena, the New York Times is connecting these. Like, they spoke with the police. The police didn't deny that there was a connection here. These articles were all about the connected, ongoing Bronx Sniper shootings. So I don't understand why people are making this argument that there was no Bronx Sniper when there were feature articles that there was a Bronx Sniper. Bronx shootings terrorize neighborhood. New York Times. This was picked up from another newspaper, right? Same article. 169th. In the last 8 weeks, 6 people. The shootings have brought notoriety and terror. They don't talk about the malicious drug gangs in here. He says this place is filled with addicts, right? But they're not talking about the malicious drug gangs doing the shootings. This was all about one person doing these shootings. So again, please tell me what rules Berkowitz out from this. What did let's see what people are saying, and then we'll call it a day. We deserve what we continue to tolerate, and I believe the whole show is rigged. All of it. That's just my opinion. Yeah, like Ben All. Listen, man. I was once the biggest conspiracy head out there. There wasn't a conspiracy theory that I didn't believe. You wanted to talk about aliens and having bases underground, I was right there with you. You want to talk about the slave species of God, I was in there. I was writing articles about it and writing letters to the editor. You want to talk about the Son of Sam cult, I was the OG on the cult. But of course, the Maury Terry revelations and realizing how bad he lied. Like, he lied. I didn't lie. Like, he lied, right? Like, I'm not yelling at you, Ben All. I'm just getting a little excited here. But like, people say that I make stuff up or that I make my reputation off a dead man. No, if Maury Terry hadn't lied, I'd still be kissing his ass like I did on my first video. So my ultimate point here, to your point, Ben All, is that I've learned to be more discerning in my consumption of conspiracy material, and definitely in the last 3 years since I've been hip to Maury Terry's bullshit, I have definitely gotten out of a lot of my old ways of thinking. And but to your point, I still do believe, yes, the whole game is rigged. We're screwed. I mean, listen, it only makes sense, right? These systems aren't that we live under, right? These systems, whatever system you live under, they're just invented and agreed upon by people. And they could all go away the minute that the electricity is unplugged. So anything run by people is run by people, and therefore it's like there's gonna be consolidated power at the top running shit, rigging the systems for sure. It definitely feels like we're losing more and more every day. I don't understand what's going on. Actually, I do understand what's going on, but I like try to keep that to myself because I like to just laugh about druids. Ralph Dude said it's a red flag that Berkey definitely lied when asked about these shootings. Yes. And that's what I would like to volley back, Ralph Dude, at people like Paul Berger and Jonathan Mithsell. And to the extent, like Paul Hart is an intelligent person. I can't lump him in intellectually with these other people. Those other people are just probably not even capable of understanding. But these people have got to realize that in a discourse like this, it's a two-way street. You can't expect me to do a show, right, like on your malicious drug gangs like I just did, and then not address the fact what Ralph Dude is saying. And it's not me saying it. It's not Ralph saying it. Berkey lied in that article. He did. I mean, you have to reconcile that. You have to address that. That's how now this discussion continues. I'm not going to entertain notions of malicious drug gangs and you finding an article about a sniper and saying that that discounts the notion that Burkowitz the sniper, because it doesn't discount the notion that Berkowitz is a sniper. And the fact that he lied in that article makes it more suspicious. He lied of course, in his interrogation to the cops about Savino. He also said the sketch looked exactly like him. He would find himself guilty if he was on a jury and presented with the case as evidence as presented to him. He also said that he had no idea where he was staying that week that he left the Casaras. He says he might have been staying in his car on Orchard Beach, but that he doesn't remember. There was some cool tidbits out of that interrogation, but in either case, Berkowitz is lying. In fact, Galati, right? This is an interesting thing. This is an interesting thing that I heard Galati say today. And I heard him say it a few times before. And you're all welcome to call in if you want to call in. Here's the link again. So this goes back to goes back to Berkowitz and lying. And Ralph, dude, I'll get to this. But let me just tell this Galati thing. So Berkowitz, as you all know, told his spiritual counselor, Mike Caparelli, PhD, that he did all the shootings himself, that he was the only shooter. He lied to Maury Terry under pressure. And of course, that backs up with the factual forensic evidence, the circumstantial evidence, Berkowitz's own words at the time, et cetera, et cetera. It's all backed up that he was the lone shooter. It was just a crazy notion that he had help. And of course, we all know he was bribed by Maury Terry. Maury Terry was very free giving money out. He loved buying Berkowitz stuff. So that's what the pressure that Berkowitz was felt. Anyway, back to what Galati was saying. So Galati was speaking to this degenerate Frank DeGennaro, the accoster of Wendy Savino, the guy who thankfully is keeping his mouth shut because of how bad he looked, going up to a victim of David Berkowitz and saying, David wants to talk to you. You know how terrified she got, bro? You put her in the hospital. So this guy's crazy, this Frank DeGennaro. He actually believes that Berkowitz is innocent, that Berkowitz is a pious Christian. And so Berkowitz has a grift going with him, right? Because Berkowitz is getting stuff from this DeGennaro, most likely. So DeGennaro is a cult believer. So Berkowitz tells him, oh yeah, I just had to tell Caparelli that I did it alone, but I really didn't do it alone. I had to tell him that I did it alone because I need to protect my family. They're in danger from the cult. So that's what Berkowitz is telling DeGennaro. At the same time, he's telling Caparelli, I did it alone. Now, he's telling the truth in one of them, right? He either did it alone or he didn't. The evidence shows he did it alone. We don't need to adjudicate that. That's not the point here. The point that I'm trying to make is that he lies about these things. So now all of a sudden I'm going to believe him when he said he didn't shoot Wendy or that he didn't shoot Margaret Iglesias. Are you out of your minds? So yeah, it's a red flag that Berkowitz lied about these shootings for sure. Berkowitz's recent lying is circumstantial evidence, but is a very interesting piece of the circumstances for sure. Any cop will tell you lying when confronted is often a sign of more. Excellent, excellent comment. And that's the kind of challenge that I'm putting out to these people. You want to have a discourse on this case? Well, then let's have a discourse on this case. But we can't keep on going back to these articles about malicious drug gangs because it doesn't hold water as an argument. In New York City, it was big enough to contain let's just say Berkowitz as Bronx Sniper and the malicious drug gangs as Bronx Sniper, just like New York City was big enough during Son of Sam to contain Berkowitz and his shooting spree and the other 2,000 homicides that took place irrespective of him. See what I'm saying? So I think I made my point, and that's where we'll leave it. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for being here, and we will see you on the next episode of The Grossman Files. Take care, everybody.